Hi, my name is Meredith, and you're listening to UC3P.
Hi, my name is Maddie Collins, and in this season of Chicagoland, you'll be hearing from our Harris Community Action Fellows. Harris Community Action is a student organization at the Harris School of Public Policy. HCA serves to connect grad students from the Harris School of Public Policy to the larger Southside community through a unique fellowship program that utilizes student expertise to build the technical, operational, and strategic capacity of nonprofits on Chicago's South Side. Every academic year, HCA invites students from the Harris School of Public Policy to participate in the HCA Fellowship. Once selected, fellows are formed into teams based on their interests and skill sets. At the same time, local nonprofit organizations apply to participate in the program and, with the help of the HCA board, scope 10-week projects to benefit their organization and community. Fellow teams are then connected with partner organizations to begin executing their projects. This year, we had 55 fellows working on 17 different projects for 15 nonprofits in Chicago's South Side. Today, we're going to be chatting with one of our fellows teams about their experience working with Sunshine Enterprises. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
My name is Shashank Bharadwaj. I'm in the MS CAP program here, first year.
I'm Rory O'Carroll. I'm a first-year MPP candidate from outside of Boston, which is where I'm.
So my name is Jake, and I'm originally from India, but for past 3 years, I've been in US.
Awesome. Great. So now we're going to jump into your fellowship experience. So I'm wondering if one of you could tell us a bit more about your partner organization and the work that they do.
Yeah, so our partner organization is Sunshine Enterprises, and they focus on helping under-resourced entrepreneurs, either active or aspiring, develop their business in their community. And Joel Hemernick, who kind of founded the organization, and it started as Sunshine Gospel Ministries. One day, Joel happened to meet a woman who was one of the founders of an organization called Rising Tide Capital, which is located in New Jersey. And this sort of model, classes and coaching and access to capital, is the Rising Tide model. And the story of Rising Tide is that the founder, his mother, came to the United States initially as a refugee, but had to leave her daughter behind and had to work to kind of build the funding up to bring her daughter over. And the way that she was doing that is she started a business of her own. She was a waitress, but didn't make enough money that way. Then started, sewing dresses on the side and selling those dresses. Eventually used that side business to raise the money to bring her daughter over to the United States. And that daughter and her husband then founded Rising Tide Capital based off of that story. So Joel heard that story from his daughter and decided that this could be a really cool idea in the city of Chicago.
Wow, that's awesome. What an interesting story. Thank you for sharing.
They do a bunch of different programs, but it's sort of split into three components. One component is a set of classes that go over, it's like a 12-week program. And they teach kind of the basics of business, how to form a business plan, accounting, finance, sort of the nitty gritty of what you need to know to be able to run a business. That students progress from there into individualized coaching, where they have a mentor. And then the third step that program is maybe providing access to capital if students are kind of ready to reach that step of the process. The exciting thing about what Sunshine does, they have hubs kind of all over the city. And so they connect with residents of Chicago where they are and offer them a low-cost way to get kind of the assistance they need to grow their business. And their goal is to build self-sufficiency among their students and help them work towards, eventually building generational wealth for their families.
So now I'd like to hear a little bit about the work that you guys did for Sunshine Enterprises. What project did you complete for them?
The main goal of our project was to build a logic model. And for those unfamiliar with that concept, a logic model is really sort of just an organizational document that tracks for an organization, what are the activities they pursue using those inputs, and then from those activities, what are the outcomes that they're trying to drive. So it's really just like a way to formalize information, to really think clearly about what are the goals of the organization and have it all laid out in an easy to consume way for different, and it could be information that's for different people. It could be, one idea is to use it as information for funders that, potentially donate to the organization. You could also come in from an outside perspective and come at it from a more of a 30,000-foot view. The organization is, the people in the organization there's always so many things to do, and they're kind of running full speed all the time. So I think it was helpful for them to have someone come in and look at it from sort of a higher view.
Wow, that's awesome. Even after 2 years at Harris, logic models are still something I know very little about. So I'm quite impressed with you all. So I'd love it if you guys could talk a little bit about your process and how you decided to attack this project. 10 weeks is a relatively short amount of time, but you all obviously got so much done. So yeah, just walk me through your process a little bit. What were your first steps after meeting with your representative from Sunshine?
As Shashank was saying, the first person we met from Sunshine was Joel, who kind of ran through this whole history with us. And I think we were pretty hooked from early on. We had, we knew very little about Sunshine other than sort of the basic research once we got assigned to them. But I think hearing Joel's very, very human story and sort of, hearing how much passion he had. And as we continue to meet members, the people at Sunshine are very invested in what they do. A lot of them, are members of the community, have come up through Sunshine, many of them. And so really believe in sort of that model. And so to hear sort of Joel speak about it like that was, I think, got us hooked and got us interested in Sunshine and ready to move on. And I think to your point, Maddie, none of us had any experience with logic models. And so I think the process for us, it was sort of a two process. The first was learning about logic models, figuring out how we were going to tackle the actual deliverable, and then also learning about Sunshine. For the logic model was at first sort of working with the HCA board, working with Jimena, who was great throughout this. She was our point person on the HCA board. She had actually worked with a logic model prior for her project. So she gave us a lot of great examples and sort of came in, had a separate meeting with both of the Sunshine groups to sort of explain to us, what we should be looking for, what we should be keeping our eye out for, and sort of how the final product would look. So I think that sort of really steered us in the right direction. We looked at some other logic models for some other organizations, and just how they, the logic model came down to sort of grouping different components of Sunshine into sort of inputs, outputs, and outcomes. Those were the three big words. And so it was a lot of learning about Sunshine in order to group their actions, their services, everything that sort of makes up Sunshine into these sort of nice little boxes, which is definitely easier said than done. I think we also, as we were going through and sort of having weekly check-ins with Sunshine and learning more about them through our own research and through the documents they were giving to us, we started to feel almost as though we were, as we were starting to compile it, like we were just kind of saying back to them what they were saying to us. And we were a little uncertain as to sort of if our approach was kind of going to be useful after the end of the 9 or 10 weeks. And so I think one of the aha moments for us that really came in was when we realized that our goal was to sort of be that fresh set of eyes, and that we weren't reinventing the wheel. We were sort of taking everything that made up Sunshine and organizing it for Sunshine and for their board, also for investors and people who had no idea what Sunshine did, so that people kind of see the process of, starting with some teachers and, some classrooms and whatever other supplies and inputs they take, and turning them into classes with students that are eventually becoming entrepreneurs within Chicago. And so in terms of sort of the process of learning about Sunshine, so we had weekly meetings where we met with Laura Lane and other members of the team who were kind enough to come in and sit down with us for an hour and answer just a barrage of questions from us as we were trying to learn about, why they were there, what their motivations were, also how Sunshine worked. We had them sort of walk us through the life cycle of a student from an inquiry all the way through to graduation of the 12-week course and sort of beyond that into entrepreneurship. And so once those weekly meetings were really helpful in just clarifications, understanding the process, we would also meet separately weekly and sort of start to put these things into boxes and figure out how the final deliverable was going to look. I think one of the things we learned throughout the process was we came in, I think, expecting this to be a more quantitative role. And I think very, very quickly we realized that it was going to be a much more qualitative endeavor. And so it was a lot more about, learning about students and learning about how they were getting students, what they were looking for in students, how they were designing their classes. And I think we did try and weave in weaving in metrics to figure out, how can Sunshine measure their success, and how can Sunshine, measure different inputs and outputs. And that sort of led us to, and this was something that we talked about a lot in those weekly meetings, was lead and lag measures. So the way to sort of we define lead and lag measures were sort of the, things like graduation rates, things that sort of like you could look at an organization and say they spent X amount, they graduated this many students. And what we were trying to do is identify lead measures. And lead measures were things that were going to be predictive about those outcomes, predictive about the lag measures, but that could be measured earlier on so that Sunshine could adjust course. We were looking for places where Sunshine could implement these lead measures and, help with things like graduation rate, help with things like successful completion of the course. Obviously, some of the further checkpoints down the road help with things like, building successful entrepreneurs. And so what we were doing was sort of, it was for investors, and it was sort of so they could say, this is what Sunshine looks like on a, 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. But it was also a chance for Sunshine to kind of see what other people were taking away from their model and sort of could reevaluate and make adjustments. And I think that's part of what we're hoping that they'll be able to use this for in the future.
Great. So you kind of touched on it a little bit at the end there. So all this logic modeling that you've done for Sunshine, how would you like to see that work applied to their organization in the future? And if you know anything about this, do you know what their future plans are? Did they share that with you towards the end?
So first of all, I'll say like the outcomes is all boiled down to the outcomes, like what hard work we put in, like the efforts the organization and we together put in, like it all comes to the outcome. Say we divided it into like 3 parts. Like the first one was to like the smooth out the transition from in-person to online. That was a big problem for them, like because a lot of people, they don't have all the measures, like they don't have all the tools that were required. So Sunshine did a good job of providing them with the tools and everything. But the other part was like they were not able to retain all the members who were taking these classes and stuff like that. So we trying to like just go into the problems of what all are the big problems, like why are people not being retained as the Sunshine hope. So we looked into that. We came up with like how to like get a better relationship between the instructor and student, so that there's a more communication between them, which can increase their retention rate. We specifically work on the retention part, like how to get more people to get retained in the program, and how to get there like a smooth transition from CBA to BAS. BAS is like a more advanced level course, and CBA is like more of a training sort. And then you go into a BAS, that's like a more advanced level course into accounting and different stuff Shishank told us earlier. And the second part, which I'll say, was like, just like as Yuri said, like we presented a flow chart of how the organization is working, in what manner the organization is working, and what are the achievements, how are they like doing it better. So we included like some of our suggestion on that part, like we need a perfect balance in the class, the cohort, like people who are interested in running a business and people who already have some kind of knowledge of running a business. So that kind of cohort will like be a successful cohort, because then people can share information. And the third was already like, what are the big goals of the organization? Intergenerational wealth is one of the big goals. We have all sort of articles like about like intergenerational poverty, how people are suffering, especially in the south side of Chicago, how people are suffering with intergenerational poverty. They're like, so the Sunshine Enterprises, like they more or sort work on that part, like how can they like help these individuals to grow, like, so that was like one of the basic things which we worked on. And as we say, like slowly, I think the organization like tends to scale up the number of people they are taking in, tend to scale up the number of business they want to like have these people go on and like build, and tend to like increase the number of jobs they will be creating through these businesses. And the other part is like Sunshine heavily like emphasizes on diversity and inclusion. So that was also one of the things, like they'll have like members from different background, diversity, like different ethnicity. So that is also one of the main goal, I think, which in turn will always help the community at large, like the Chicago. It will help overall like have a more economic development